So ladies and gentlemen, again, I'd like to thank my very good friend Mark, Dominic, and everyone else that I'll be sharing the stage with over the weekend, especially this weekend. I must say, the build-up to this was not a very, very easy one for me, as I found myself experiencing a lot of anxiety. Anxiety at the thought of standing up here, sharing my own personal experiences about the industry, sharing my own personal experiences about how I got to find my power voice. But you know why? Most of the times I'm on stage, and usually I have a script in front of me, and I have either a schedule or a program that I need to follow. So I'm so used to sitting on my bum behind a computer, writing stories or editing stories about the things or people around me, but it has never been really about myself, which is why this experience has been, next to my skydiving experience, one of the most scariest that I've ever had to face. So I thought of coming up with creative ways after Mark gave me that call and asked me to come up here. And I'm like, oh, the weekend of the 21st and the 22nd, I'll be sick. But how do I tell Mark I'm going to be sick? How's that going to work out? It's not going to work out. And so many thoughts went through my mind. And then it hit me. Every single event that played a huge role in my life, that was a highlight of my life, I look back and it's been the best experience ever, started with this feeling of anxiety. Started with overcoming this feeling, and instead of listening to the negative voice in me that kept saying, I can't, I won't, and what if, I decided to change the content and the tone of that voice to say, I can, I will, and what happens when it happens? We move on to the next level. So that is the ultimate message that I'm trying to, this is actually where I'm trying to go. Before you can find your inner voice and know how to work with it, you first need to listen to the voices inside your head. There's always that one voice that tells you you can't do something. And there's always the other voice that says, hey, why the hell not? And I tell you, as a human being, you are more likely to want to prove a point to a friend, a colleague, or a stranger who comes to you and says, I bet you can't do this. You are more likely to want to go out there and do the best you can to prove the point to that person. But once you have decided in your mind that you will not do something, no one and nothing is going to stop you. So essentially, where I'm trying to go with this is, well, I'm actually going to pose the question to you. Who is your worst enemy? Thank you. My worst enemy is myself. I am my worst enemy. I am the one that says, I don't feel like waking up this morning. You know what, really, I'm not made for this. And I'll just go on and use a couple of examples. As Mark mentioned, I started right here at UJFM back in 2008. It was just a random walk to the student center. I was going to have my lunch after a lecture, and I saw a poster when I walked past the studio saying that UJFM was looking to recruit new talent. I had about 6 to 7 days, like exactly a week, to make up my mind. I would have decided right there and there that I was going to do it. But I gave myself 6 to 7 days to think about it. How much time had I wasted? How much time had I wasted, to put aside that I could have used to prepare for that audition? What I had done then, I went to that audition, spoke to the guy, Sithole, who was the sound guy at the time. And he says, you know what, Gladys, people like you frustrate me so much because you've got the voice, you've got the instrument, you're using it. I've heard you speak to your friends outside, I've heard you giggle. But you come in here and you're trying to be somebody that you're not. You come in here and you're trying to impress me. Dude, I've been in this industry for so long. I am over that. I can tell that you are acting. Get over it and sound like yourself. And what was I auditioning for? I had the choice of auditioning to being a presenter on the radio. So basically, I bring my own content, I put it out there, and I inform the masses. But I decided instead to play it safe. I was going to start off as a newsreader, because then everything is scripted. I don't have to use my brains. People are not going to think I'm stupid when I share my ideas. So what I'm going to do is, yes, one day I will present, but I will start by observing from the other side with a script. And that's when I felt I'd wasted so much of my time. I'd wasted so much of my time not using what was in here but instead telling stories. But no, not really. It wasn't really a waste of time. I'm still doing it today. I enjoy it. It is a passion of mine, and I wouldn't change this for the world. For those who don't know, I actually studied psychology. Halfway, I decided, you know what, this is not for me. I was diagnosed with depression because I'm the type of person who loves people. I'm a people's person. I make time to listen to people. I like to help people. But when it comes to the practicality of now having to imply, or in fact, to put theory to practical, I struggled. Because I chosen, I wanted to work with children. They gave me a 10-year-old who was a bully at his school. He carried a knife. He was in a gang. And all he wanted to do was going around stabbing people who felt they were better than everyone. He had threatened me a couple of times. And that's when I decided, you know what? The day I wrap up and say, I'm done with my studies, I'm done with my practicals, I need to go home and switch off. And I couldn't. I couldn't switch off. I couldn't stop thinking about that little boy. And that's when I decided, that was a determining factor. That was when I was like, okay, fine. Theory-wise, psychology is very interesting. But is this something that I'm going to get something out of in the long run? I felt not. I felt it was killing me slowly. And that's when I was diagnosed with depression. Next, I tried for a weekend slot at Air Media. For those who don't know what Air Media does, they do retail radios, Jet FM, Edgar's Music Radio, Red Cap Radio. If you've been in a shop and you've heard people say, buy this for 29 Rand, you get discounts, you get one for free, oh, win a holiday, 50,000 Rand is up for grabs. And I was that person. But my journey into that position was not an easy one. I've got stories about everything that I've done in my life. I was told explicitly when I got there that no, sorry, this is not a slot for newsreaders, because my programs manager then, he said, and he was right, newsreaders have a tendency of getting stuck in this sound that they can't get out of. Once you've learned to read the news, you start sounding like you're scripted every time you speak. And I'm not going to take somebody that sounds like a newsreader and put them on a radio that's supposed to bring life and music and excitement to people who are there to shop. It's a damn weekend. Why would I want to have someone who sounds like a newsreader on my radio? I was explicitly told, sorry, you're not going to crack this one. I insisted. I was like, I'm sure I can break out of this. He's like, I'm having a conversation with you. That's exactly how you're sounding now. How are you going to do it? I'm like, well, I am able to go home and sound like myself. He's like, yeah, well, those are two different things. When the mics are off, the cameras switch off, you sound like yourself. When all of those things come back on, you start acting like a newsreader. I don't want that. Go ahead with it, do it, but I'm telling you, it's not going to work. Found out there were 5 other people going for that same slot. They were looking for somebody to fill the weekend slot. Let's just say, weeks down the road, or down the line, I was scheduled now to be anchoring or presenting on the weekday slots with one of the ladies who has now, or is known now, to be the princess of voiceovers in South Africa, Carol Ralifete. I worked alongside her every single weekday, every single weekend, and in her, I found a mentor. And while I was there, what did I do? I asked questions. When I didn't understand, again, I went back to Carol. Carol, how do you get out of this? Carol, how do you... Sometimes she got a little pissed off with me because I was just asking, and I'm trying to prove a point to my programs manager then that I can do this. And eventually, I started to host my own show because of the SMSs that came in every time I was on the radio. They had to calculate all of that and say, actually, what Gladys is on, there's actually more live. What they did then, they gave me the staff hour show in the morning. That is the show that you do to gear up the staff, to get them ready for the day. And the SMSs that came in there showed me that I had something in me that I hadn't realized I had yet. And I had to tap into it. How was I going to do that? I was going to pursue. I was going to keep on keeping on. I was going to find different ways to challenge myself. And challenge myself I did. I started dancing around fires when I took my CV and I handed it over to ANN7. People around me saying, yo, don't do that. That is a career suicide you're about to attempt. You're about to commit a career suicide. Why don't you wait until you join ENCA? Why don't you wait until you join SABC? But the truth is, who's ever going to give you an opportunity when you actually have no background? I thought about it, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, ANN7, I've been seeing the media attention that it's gotten. People are laughing. Some of the anchors had been on YouTube. They were being made fun of. But I'm like, nothing beats being prepared. Go on air, and I told myself that every 2 hours that I was on air every single day were going to be the best broadcast of my life, and that I was going to walk out of there proud of myself. And why did the other anchors end up on YouTube? Because you go in there, you have your whole faith, hope, trust, everything on a teleprompter. That is technology. It can fail you. And what then when it happens? And you need to start balancing going through your notes, going through your teleprompter, and listening to an irritating director that's shouting orders at you all the time. You need to balance all of that. And in all of that, you need to find that the peace. And also still bear in mind that there's a person watching at home, and they don't know what's happening in the background. It is unfair for me to take it all out on the audience or the person watching at home. So through ANN7 and the people that told me I was committing a career suicide, by the way, those were people who had never been on that platform. People who had never done this ever in their lives. And that's the winner voice in me saying, hold on, hold on, hold on. Ask these questions, Gladys. You have the right to do that. Ask the questions. Who are you? When were you on ANN7? How was it? Tell me more about it. Oh, and why were you embarrassed? Why is your video up on YouTube? These are people who had absolutely no experience. And through ANN7, I went on to report at one of the biggest events that I would look back now and highlight as one of the big things in my life. I didn't sleep. My boyfriend is there and he can attest to that. I did not sleep days leading up to the AU Summit. And what happened when I got there? With preparation, I got there, I saw the delegates coming in, I knew that was Robert Mugabe from Zimbabwe. Because I had prepared, I knew that I went back to the previous notes, I went back to their online information, and I knew who to expect. What was that? Preparation, research, research, research. Funny enough, when I got there, the tables all turned. As soon as I walked in, I'm like, sir, can I? Oh, Gladys, ANN7, yo, Africa Tonight, I love you so much. Oh my gosh, I watch you from Zimbabwe. I love your show. You get into all the details. You get, your guests, I love them. You engage with, huh? Gladys, wait, me? Yeah, oh, thank you. I went back home, I'm like, baby, you will not believe this. This guy, a delegate from Ghana, watches my show every single time. My CEO came to me and said, listen, the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs loves you. What do you do with that feedback? You remain humble. And you keep on doing what you have been doing, and you keep on growing, and you keep on challenging yourself, and you keep on listening to feedback. Feedback is always, always very important. All right. And then I heard something that felt like magic to my ears when we heard from a pastor who came to visit us from the US a couple of weeks ago. My friends over there know all about it. And he said, and I quote, well, I'm actually quoting from what he quoted from the Bible. And he said, if you have run with footmen and they have tired you out, then how can you compete with horses? Jeremiah 12, verse 5, for those who have a Bible and who would like to look it up. I'm telling you, I got this from the Bible. If the footmen you are dealing with, who have been sent out to tire you out, the war hasn't even begun. That is preparation. They have sent out all of their weak soldiers to come and take you on. You are fighting, and you are losing your power, you're losing all of... Before you know it, you're thinking, I'm done. Kadloom, the horses come out. What then? You fall over and die? No. You face them head on. And you fight. And I felt that ANN7 for me, I'm sorry, a lot of the people that I speak to are like, ANN7 is the worst thing to ever happen to me. I say that sometimes. But when I look back, I learned more from ANN7 than I could have learned from any other easy experience in my life. So allow yourself to go through all the challenges. Allow yourself to face the challenges. Allow yourself to feel that anxiety. Because it is that anxiety that guides you. It is that anxiety that tells you, this is the right thing to do. But before you get to that goal, there are all these footmen that you have to deal with. You're dealing with them. You're going to the horses because you want to be running with them. So the message, Work first on the contents and tone of your inner voice, and you will see. The rest sorts itself out. This then brings me to the outer voice now. The one that's not the easiest to deal with, but works for you if you are passionate enough about anything that you do. You could be a teacher speaking to grade ones every single day. You can be a salesperson. There's a lot of examples that have been made about salesperson or people. You can be a manager of a company. You can be anything. Ultimately, you have to use your voice to get people to buy into your brand, people to buy into your dream, people to help you build that dream. So there are two different types of voices or tones. And I always like to work in twos with everything because it's easier to remember, it's easier to decipher, it's easier to break down. So those two different types of voices are one that you don't want to be and one that you definitely need to be. And because you're here, that means you've taken the first step to walking towards that. So the voice you don't want to be is a submissive voice. You don't want to have a shaky voice. That could also be as a result of nervousness. I feel right now, my voice is deeper than this. I know it feels shaky to me. If you can't tell, I can, because I know what my voice sounds like now. I am nervous, but I'm dealing with it. I'm running with the horses. Here I am. Nervous as hell. Doubtful. You don't want to be dealing with any doubtful person. You don't want to be listening to a person who doesn't even believe in themselves or who doesn't even believe in what they say. You don't want to be dealing with a passive or a meek voice, unless you are a bully and you want to jump in every now and again when they're trying to get their point across. Nobody wants to deal with a voice that is meek and that is very weak and that is not passionate. You don't want to deal with an insecure voice, and you don't want to deal with a timid voice. Now, the opposite of a submissive voice is a dominant voice. And I know a lot of the people have come to me saying, I sound like I'm 12 years old. I will never have a No, it's not about that. It is not about that. You can have a voice of a 12-year-old, but you can add so much depth to it with how you carry it. And no matter how your voice sounds, if you cannot count this as what your voice sounds like today, then you're at the right place. A dominant voice sounds very smooth. It is confident, it is assertive, it is secure, and it is bold. A dominant voice can sell you dreams that don't even exist. A dominant voice can sell you a dead product. A dominant voice can bring to life something that you never believed in, but now you start looking at it a different way. Now this, again, brings me to the challenges. But before I get to the challenges, I'm going to quote one of the men that in the past few weeks has really changed my life just by watching his videos. He's a top-rated international speaker and voice coach. His name is Julian Treasure, and he made a lot of sense to me when he says, and I quote, "We vote for politicians with lower voices because we associate depth with power and authority." So without even realizing it, we make our choices based simply on the sound and tone of somebody's voice. We make our decision based on how somebody carries their voice, whether they sound 12 years old. If you have to rather have a dominant voice and it sounds like a 12-year-old voice, and I had to put it on the radio, I'd be like, damn, that is the smartest 12-year-old I'd ever heard. That 12-year-old needs to be put in the same group as the 50-year-olds, people who have lived life, because that's how they sound. So it is the content. It's how you carry it. It's not about the tone or the pitch. A lot of people worry about the pitch, saying, oh, I sound like this, so I will never make it. You will make it. You just need to add depth and take it seriously. The challenges, these are obstacles that get in the way of you finding your power voice. And I'll use, again, two different and very simple examples under this heading. The number one challenge that we all fear is fear. Fear itself. And here, again, is an interesting ranking. Mark and Dominic actually touched on it, and I was like, ha, I've got the top 10 list. They just said, oh, fear of public speaking is far worse than death. But I got the list for you. This is according to the Book of Lists, which was had produced a survey back in 1977. And the following are the top 10 things that most humans fear. At number 10, dogs. I said to my boyfriend on our way here, this is a black people thing. So white people go, how can people be so afraid of dogs? It's an innate thing for us black people. We learn to have pets. I still don't want to get a dog. I still don't want to get any pets. I'm scared of dogs. I'm scared that one day that dog is going to change its mind and it's going to bite me because it's got teeth. I'm not going to get a dog. He wants a pug. I'm like, you're on your own. Sorry, I'm not getting a dog. I'm still scared of dogs. I've been chased down the road, the whole 9 yards, by a dog, a tiny little dog, that I was then later, they were trying to get me to brush it, saying, no, it's going to get used to your aroma, your smell. I'm like, no, it's got teeth. It's going to bite me. There's no ways I'm going to do that. At number 9, we are scared of loneliness. Nobody wants to die alone. You don't ever want to be going through something in life and feeling like, no, people are just not there for you. There always has to be at least 1, 2, 3, maybe more people that are always there for you. At number 8, flying. Number 7, death. And this was a huge surprise to me. I would have expected it to, if not number 1, be at number 2. But death was a huge surprise to me because, I mean, you ask yourself the question, what is far worse than death? And according to this list, what is far worse than death is number 6, sickness. People are scared of sickness, which in my books results to death sometimes, if untreated. At number 5, people are very scared of deep water. Number 4, financial problems, which I think is the reason why we're all here today, to find our power voice so we can use that to make us some money, right? So that is number 4. At number 3, insects and bugs. Again, a surprise to me. A surprise to me because people are more scared of insects and bugs than they are of financial problems, of death, of sickness. Are you serious? At number 2, heights. And I have some witnesses up on this audience. I almost said stage. I'm the one on stage. I have some witnesses who can attest to that, who can actually testify that 3 weeks ago, I conquered my fear of heights. I went skydiving, jumped out of a plane from 11,000 feet up. And I was told literally before I jumped, how long is this going to take? It's going to take about 40 seconds free falling, and then after free falling, I'm going to pull the parachute and, I thought it was 40 seconds altogether. No, it's about 5 minutes. So 5 minutes of being up there, looking down, doing what I sometimes have nightmares about. But can I tell you what? When I conquered this fear, I found that there was a common thread to each and every other fear in my life. You tend to overthink things. You tend to always think, oh my gosh, I'm going to get hurt. My bones are going to get broken. I'm going to die. I didn't die. Here I am today. If anything, my life has changed completely. And that was what helped me not back down from this. Because I feel if I hadn't gone to skydive, I probably would have said to Mark, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do this. Because what could be worse than the feeling of conquering your fear? But funny enough, I got here and I started to feel the exact same way as I felt when I went to go skydive. I'm like, I thought I was done with this. Fear, what do you want from me? So who can guess what the number 1 fear is for human beings? Well, I gave it away. Mark and Dominic gave it away. Number 1 fear. That's correct. Public speaking. And that's how far back this phobia goes. 1977. Well, this was a survey done in 1977. It goes way further than that. So fear of public speaking, ladies and gentlemen, ranks far above death as the fear that most people often mention. Can anyone tell me why do we have a fear of public speaking? Judgment, rejection? Lack of confidence. Lack of confidence. So even if you had done your research, you would still have a lack of confidence. Well, that's true. I have done my research. And here I am. I was like, and it gets better once you get started. Because then you become real. You stop acting for a moment and you're like, hold on. But I'm here to tell my truth. So, sorry. So I have to keep going back here because this is a list of things that I have to take you through. I didn't even have to go far with this one. I just asked the people around me why they were so scared of public speaking. And some of the things that you mentioned, in fact, all of the things that you mentioned are here on this list. This was feedback that I received from my colleagues, my boyfriend, my friends, random strangers around me. And this is what they fear. They fear judgment. Judgment of what? You don't have to answer that. That is a personal note that you need to make now. Go home and deal with it. Judgment of what? You fear humiliation and being made fun of. By whom and what qualifies that person to make fun of you when they are not here themselves doing exactly what they're judging you of doing? The next fear is the fear of the what if, the unknown. And this is so funny. I'm like, okay, what if I come on stage and I discover for the first time that I have a speech disorder, and I start talking, and this is where it's going to manifest itself. I've never had a history of that, but for the first time today, I'm going to have that. Oh, speech disorder. I'm never going to speak ever again in public in my life. Here I am. I'm almost done with my speech. Nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing wrong. So this is also known as the fear of the unknown. What if? Fear of the unknown. So tell me something, again, very quickly. How do we give the unknown so much power? How do we give the unknown so much character? How do you allow the unknown to take over your life and define where you go and where you don't go? How do you allow the unknown to stop you from achieving what you want to achieve? How do you do that as a person? I asked myself this question and I was ashamed of myself. I can't even define fear without having to quickly check the dictionary. Oh, fear, this and this. We can't even define this thing properly, but we allow it to have so much power over us. So these are personal notes you need to go back home and deal with in finding your power voice. And anxiety, which can be caused by questioning one's capabilities compared to the audience altogether. Not one person, the audience altogether. My friend Jacob, who has come out to support me today, was the first person to give me news training back in 2008 when I started. He was my head of news at UJFM. And when I invited him, I'm like, I regret it. Eish, Jacob knows everything. Everything I'm going to go up on that stage and talk about, he's going to go, oh, I taught her that. Oh, I knew that. I didn't learn anything new. But the question is, not even Jacob, not anyone else here can come and tell my story and represent my story the way I know how to. Because it is my experience through meeting each and every one of you here. No one can take my story and tell it the way that I can. So this is what we do. We think about the people in the audience. We're like, oh, this person is an accountant. Oh, they're dealing with numbers. What qualifies me? The question is, who are you not to be standing on that stage and telling your story? So I was still dealing with fear, just by the way. The second obstacle, and I'm going to go through this one very quickly, that we have to deal with and we have to start right now, are our habits. We have habits that keep on revisiting us. And once you get something right and you think you're confident, I got it now, it comes back. I've been years into this, and I still go into a voiceover, and those habits keep coming back. And I'm like, I thought I got this. So these are things you need to work with. Too much thinking, safe words, they were covered earlier. Those are your safe words because you're trying to think of the next thing to say. The funny thing is the story's already there. It's already there. You've prepared. You've done everything you needed to do. You're going, what I'm going to tell you now is sometimes forget the script, turn around, and speak your truth. That's it. Nobody saw you making your notes. Nobody saw you doing your research. So nobody can say, listen, you left that part out when you start telling your truth. No one is ever going to say that to you. And then also we act. This is a false representation of who you really are. I was told, the first time I was told that I sounded different on the radio than what I sound in real life, I got excited. My manager said, no, that's a bad thing. When somebody's listening to you on the radio and they say you sound very different, there's something you're not doing right. You need to sound more like yourself because you are Gladys Sithole on the radio. You're not Bernadette Muramba anywhere else, you know? So breathing. This is the one thing we're doing now. This is the one thing we do every day. But once you're faced with your fear, once you're faced with what brings upon this feeling of anxiety, you forget to do the most common thing, the one thing that comes naturally to you. You forget to breathe. When I was free falling for 40 seconds down out of that plane, I'm going, I had to appear to myself in third person and say, hey, Gladys, breathe. And when I realized I wasn't breathing, I'm like, and that's what happens when you're on stage. You're talking, and you realize, oh my gosh, I forgot to breathe in, and you go, and it becomes very awkward. It becomes very awkward. You need to remember to do the normal things that you do all the time. Your pace, let the feeling, let the content, let the words guide your pace. Because ultimately, it is the story that you're telling. If I'm talking about a funeral and somebody that has lost all their family in a fire that gutted their house, I need to show compassion, and this is how I slow down my voice. Because if that had to happen to me, I would be crying. I don't even know what I'd be doing. But if I'm telling you about a competition where you stand a chance to win 50,000 rand and a trip overseas, you have never been there. Come on. You have to add that emotion. So pace automatically is controlled once you think about what you're saying and you put truth to it. Because that is the truth. You do stand a chance to win 50,000 rand. You're not guaranteed. You stand a chance. That is the truth. So the pace should be guiding that. And also, we tend to sound robotic. Sometimes we don't have, what do you call that machine in a hospital? And then when a person dies, it goes, dee. A what monitor? Heart rate. Oh, wow, so simple. Sorry. I should have known that. A heart rate monitor. It goes, dee. That is how we sound sometimes when we're telling a story. You need to show emotion. You need to add. You need to emphasize on the specific words that need emphasis. And you need to stop sounding robotic. Also, what I'd done before, and I realized this was not taking me anywhere, I was very defensive. With voiceover work, you get in, and a client tells you, listen, Gladys, how old are you? 25 years old. Okay, great. You're 25 years old. Listen, this is an ad for L'Oreal. And the person that we're going to have on TV and the voice that is going to go, or in fact, your voice is going to go over a 50-year-old woman who has just discovered this anti-aging cream. You need to sound like a 50-year-old woman who's just loving life. She's so rich. She goes out for shopping when she meets up with her friends or whatever, they have lunch. You need to sound like a 50-year-old woman. I go in there and I'm like, L'Oreal. No. I'm trying to sound like a 50-year-old. The client tells me, sorry, you're not giving us what we want. What do? I become defensive. But I really tried my best. You want to argue. You're not actually arguing because you're like, oh, they have to pay me after this, but I'm not really going to put up an argument. But I'm like, I don't get you. That's you becoming defensive. The truth is, I thank God for the difficult clients that I have to deal with because they are very honest. And they will tell you straight up, listen, we said 50-year-old, you're giving us 25. We don't want you to sound like, this is not a product for you. It's a product for your mom. Sound like your mom. What does your mom sound like? You get so irritated because they try so many times to try and change it. But you know what I'm not doing? I am not listening. That's why I'm not getting it. You don't get it because you don't listen. You don't get it because you don't apply the advice that they're giving you. You don't get it because you are being so defensive. You think you've got it, but you don't. You actually don't. And yes, some clients they just are difficult for the sake of being difficult. Can I tell you how I know that a client is going to say, thank you, we've got everything, but they actually don't? They're going to say, thank you, okay, bye. You leave, they're going to pay your money. I've been that person who has been called to come and fix a voiceover after someone has messed it up. They didn't tell her, listen, you did such a bad job today. They say, thank you, bye. Okay, we'll see you again. Immediately they call Entertainment. Listen, we need somebody who's going to come fix this because we have a deadline. Okay, we'll refer you to Gladys. Gladys, come. Went and I had to fix a trace voiceover because this lady was told, this is for the young. It's dope music. It's this. Be rebellious, but also show confidence and da-da-da. I got in there. I'm like, okay. They're like, there's a lady who had just been here and this is what she sounded like. Trace Docker. She gave a lot of attitude, and that is not rebellious. Two different things. So they were like, please fix this. I listened. We did a couple of takes. Okay, you're not giving us what we want. I wasn't upset. I listened. And by the end, this lady's like, oh, thank you so much. You are such a lifesaver. I'm going to call Intertalent, and I'm going to let them know that you really saved us. And that's why in the future, Intertalent will not hesitate to call Gladys to come and fix something because Gladys is not being defensive. I'm not saying I'm not being defensive. I still do get defensive because it hurts my feelings when somebody says, you're not giving me what I want. You think you have it, but you don't. So stop being defensive, start listening, and start working with what you're being told. Feedback is very, very important. So invest in those vocal exercises, and like myself, don't be afraid to walk into a voiceover booth and tell a client, I'm sorry, I prefer to stand than sit down because I sound better when I'm standing. You're not being a diva. You are creating your comfort zone because it is in that comfort zone that your inner power voice is going to come out. So you're not being a diva. Just tell them, sorry, I prefer to sit down. Oh, sorry, no, I prefer warm water. This water is very cold because cold water cuts my voice. I need something warm, tea with honey. Sorry if I'm being a bit, don't be apologetic. They want the best out of you. They need to give you the resources. Okay, so what to do once you've dealt with your challenges? Listen to yourself. How many of you cringe at the sound of your own voice when you play back a recording? Listen to yourself and be very honest with what you're being faced with. You think you sound a certain way, but you don't. You listen to yourself and you're like, yo, oh my gosh, I sound so nasal. My voice is not coming from here. So work with that. Do a lot of voice recordings of yourself. It doesn't have to be anything professional. Play those back, listen to yourself, and also how you sound versus how you actually sound are two different things. Two completely different things. So brace yourselves. If you want to develop your power voice, you have to get over the cringing and actually deal with what you're being faced with. Nothing beats honesty, especially honesty to yourself. Because some people try to sugarcoat things and they're not actually helping you. So you need to be that one person you can actually count on and rely on to be the person who's going to be honest. And I would like to leave you with this. And this is something that you have to do from today moving forward if you hadn't been doing it already. The power in finding your voice, ladies and gentlemen, comes from the ability to listen. Listen to yourself. Listen to the voices around you. And filter the voices that you do not want to take forward with you. Filter those voices out. Get them out and listen to the voices that actually give you feedback that is going to help you grow. And all of that to suit your vocal needs in the end. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to me today.